Hello, this is John Maggiore with MaggioreOnBowie.com, and I am here today with Marc Lowe, my friend and friend of the blog. If you're a frequent visitor of the blog, you have seen interviews with Marc Lowe. You've seen Marc Lowe's music. He is a multi-talented musician. We've posted several of his Bowie covers, and we've also posted interviews with Marc. Marc is in Japan. He's taught a class on Bowie in Japan, and we've even talked about today's topic in one of our prior interviews, which is the Leon Sessions. And although we have talked about the Leon Sessions, I've mentioned the Leon Sessions in my blog earlier, a lot of people don't know what they are. And so the entire purpose of this interview and this post is to just explain what are the Leon Sessions. And I could think of nobody better to ask than Marc Lowe. Marc, thank you very much for joining me today from Japan. And let me start by just asking, what are the Leon Sessions?
Okay, hi, John. Thanks. It's great being back. And this is it's one of my favorite things to kind of talk about this period generally of Bowie's career. I think it really is kind of an underrated and underappreciated and misunderstood perhaps as well era in Bowie's career. Now, Bowie was coming off of the 80s, and Bowie was not very happy, actually, with what happened post Let's Dance. He felt that he had lost kind of the whole thing, the whole plot of his, trajectory from the 70s through Scary Monsters. Let's Dance was a new style, a new genre, and, I think that album in itself was something interesting and new. But after that, with Tonight and Never Let Me Down, he was very, very unhappy. And so what he wanted to do was to remake himself in the 90s. We had Tin Machine, and that was his way of kind of pressing the reset button. And fortunately for him, Reeves Gabrels was a great partner in crime, so to speak, to get him to kind of go out of his comfort zone again, as he had done in the 70s. And Reeves Gabrels was actually a fan of David Bowie's 70s material through Scary Monsters. And so he encouraged Bowie, along with, of course, Brian Eno. What are the Leon Sessions? The Leon Sessions. Brian Eno, David Bowie, I think I said this the last time, but I'll just reiterate just the basic history here. Bowie gets married to Iman Abdul-Majid, and right in 1993. And he's doing these kind of ambient recordings, Bit of Suburbia, and he shares these tapes with Brian Eno, and Brian Eno says, "That sounds great, and it just, let's work together again, maybe we could do something." So they go into the studio, 1994, and they do what is now referred to as the Leon Sessions, the Leon tapes, the Leon whatever. The Leon suites, because they were compiled into suites. Now, for all intents and purposes, the Leon Sessions or suites that have been released in any form,
they have or have not?
Which have been released in any form. They have not been officially released, but anything I've heard that you've heard that anyone anywhere has heard, apart from David and Reeves and the people who were there, or whoever engineered, whoever was there. We basically have something like, I could actually check and see what the running time is, because I actually have it in here. I'll tell you what the running time is of this thing, at least the way that my version is compiled. Let me open the Leon Suites here, because I rebooted my computer earlier. Hold on a moment, sorry. The Leon Suites run for 70 minutes, okay? So it's roughly 70 minutes, 3 suites of about 25 roughly minutes each. It's 70 minutes total. These are improvisational sessions that formed the basis for what became the Outside album, and which was released in 1995. I have a lot to say about this, and it may be part of your other questions.
Let me jump in, and I don't mean to interrupt you, and you might come back to what you're about to say, but so I've heard what we're talking about, the Leon Suites, the Leon Sessions. What would you say is the relationship to one Outside?
The relationship extremely, without the Leon Suites, there would be no Outside album. And the Outside album was not what Bowie and co. he intended to release. And what I actually went back and was looking at interviews from the time, apparently, and you kind of get conflicting things because Bowie kind of says one thing and then he saes another thing. That's what Bowie's thing, right? But basically, what I had read is that he had intended to release like a 3 CD set from those sessions. Now we have what essentially would be an almost maxed out. CD runs for maximum 79 plus minutes. It's just under 80 minutes you can fit onto a CD or a CDR. The Leon Suites, as I have, the version I have is 70 minutes, and I've heard other versions that are edited differently because it's not official. But they basically have all the same material. There's nothing missing from my version. It's basically 70 minutes. So it's a 3 CD set. It's longer than 70 minutes. And what David Bowie said, and actually I want to go to this, I was going to actually share some of what he literally says. Like, for example, there's something I found, and I had read this at the time because I was so into this whole thing and hoping he was going to release. There were 2 things, actually. This is something we haven't talked about. The sequel to Outside was supposed to be called Contamination. And it would number 2. So it was 1 Outside, 2 Contamination, 3 Afrikaans. This is an important part of what is the Leon Suites, how does it relate to Outside? It was going to be a triptych or a trilogy. Now, of course, Bowie and Nino did a trilogy, or what's referred to as the Berlin Trilogy or triptych. In the 70s, it's actually not, because the 3rd part was recorded elsewhere, I think Switzerland or something, and actually they were in Switzerland for Outside sessions. But what ended up happening with Outside was that essentially Bowie says they had 20-some hours worth of material that they recorded over a period of 8 days. Those are literally the so-called Leon sessions. The Leon Suites, however, are the 3 suites that have been released unofficially that run for roughly 6 minutes. But literally, neither I nor anyone that I know anyway, I mean, I'm sure, like I say, Reeves Gabrels, if you get him, finally, you could ask him about this. There's 20-some hours of sessions, according to David Bowie, what he said. Now, we know he sometimes exaggerates things and he says different things, but it was 20-some hours over 8 days that they did all these improvisations. And also Bowie wrote a piece for Q magazine, I also double-checked this, which was published in, I think, January 1995, but he wrote it in 1994. They commissioned him to write. He was doing the sessions in Switzerland in 1994, and Q magazine said, David, they had it was like I don't remember if it was centennial or 10 years or something, like they had an anniversary issue, and they said, David, would you write a piece for us? We want you to write this in the form of a diary over the course of X days. And Bowie was recording the album, and he thought, it's going to be boring because I'm just going to be talking about, I'm in the studio recording. So he ended up writing, what would Nathan Adler be doing? That was his fictional character that he was creating in the sessions for Leon, which of course is part of the Outside session, the Outside album storyline. So he ended up writing what became the liner notes in the Outside book, the booklet, the liner notes, the story, The Ritual Murder of Baby Grace Blue. That was literally an article he wrote for Q magazine as Nathan Adler, rather than writing about his own, this is what I'm doing day to day. So he gave Q magazine something they totally didn't expect. And it's about bloody, horrible murders. And, when he's writing about all these Nietzsche, and there are all these references. If we have a longer talk, I can go into what all these references are in the diary. And I actually found an annotated version. So it gives a lot of the details. I kind of knew many of them before. So he creates a cast of characters in the Leon sessions, which then in the suites anyway, you can hear, he does the voice of Nathan Adler and he says, I'm getting ahead of myself, and he tells the stories. You can hear Algeria Touch Shriek. You can hear Baby Grace Blue, but they're much longer and much more extended. We have a question coming.
Yeah, so somebody who's never heard the Leon Suites might be thinking that when we're talking about a proto version of One Outside, that they might eventually hear something sort of like the Gouster as compared to Young Americans, which to my ears, the Gouster is far more similar to Young Americans than the Leon Suites are to One Outside. And there is a point of commonality, and you've already said what it is, but could you just clarify what carries over into One Outside? And like how much of One Outside would you hear in the Leon Suites?
Okay, so we're just talking about the suites that I've heard, that you've
Right.
heard.
Yeah.
Because if 20 some hours, who's to say